Hi, welcome back. Today I'm going to be leading you through a flow that is hopefully going to bring some release into your back and your shoulders, especially if you're the kind of person that maybe sits all day at a desk, or maybe if you drive for long hours, or just generally have a lot of lower back tension or shoulder pain. This is going to be great for you. So before we begin, blocks and straps as usual are really great for modification. So if you do have anything you can use, just quickly pause the video and go grab those things now. If you don't have anything like that, books and belts are just as effective. So we're going to start on our backs today, coming straight down into a nice comfortable position. And before we get into our first pose, just bring one hand to your stomach and bring one hand to your chest. Just begin to breathe into the stomach, breathing into the chest. And exhale nice and slowly through the nose. Again, inhale, allow the belly to expand, filling up to the chest. And a nice, slow, controlled exhale. Inhale, draw the breath in through the nose. Feel your stomach push against your hand. Feel the chest lift towards the ceiling. And just as gently as you inhaled, slowly release and exhale. Just doing 3 more breaths at your own pace. Just keeping the eyes closed, bringing that awareness inwards. We're really trying to open up the lungs and getting into the deepest parts. Mindfully drawing the breath right into the bottom of the lungs. Feel that belly expand, filling all the way to the top. And exhale nice and slowly. Take one more breath. Beautiful. So this is the breath that I want you to try to keep consistent throughout the practice today. This is really going to help you get further into these stretches and get that release in the muscles. So for our first pose, we're going to bring both of our legs together and point both of your feet to the ceiling. Even though we're going to start with one leg, we want to keep that activation in both of the legs so that we really get the most out of the stretch. So we're going to bring the right knee in towards the torso. Take your hands around the shins and just give yourself a nice squeeze in towards the chest. Take one big breath, just as we did in the beginning. And now either with both hands or maybe just the right hand, just begin to take some nice big circles with that hip. Taking it all the way out to the right side, opening and getting that external rotation, bringing it back in. Really seeing if you can synchronize your breath to the movement. As you inhale, bringing the knee in, and exhale as it rounds down. Do this 3 more times. Nice big circles. Giving the sacrum a little massage against the floor. Stretching out the hips and stretching out the lower back. Wonderful. Bring your knee back in towards the chest. From here, you can grab your strap and place it around the ball of the foot. And we're going to extend the leg coming into a hamstring stretch. You don't have to use the strap. If you can grab the toe, that's absolutely fine. Wherever you're at, just extend that leg with the inhale and exhaling through the nose. We're going to stay here for 3 breaths. Each time you inhale, find a bit of length in the leg. And as you exhale, you can bring it closer towards you. If you're not using the strap, you can just interlace your fingers around the calf. Beautiful. One more breath. Transfer your straps into your right hand or grabbing the outside of the foot or the toe. And we're just going to begin to take this right leg all the way out to the side, keeping the body exactly where it is. As far out as it'll go, getting that nice opening in the hip. And staying for 3 breaths again. So we're working on opening up the hamstrings and the hips at the moment, as a lot of tightness in these areas is what causes a lot of lower back tension. So when our hips and hamstrings are tight, our lower back overcompensates, and that's when you'll start to get that nipping sensation or that dull ache in the lower back, especially if you've been standing for prolonged periods of time. Beautiful. With your next breath, bring the leg back in. Removing your grip or removing your strap. And with your exhale, just lowering the leg nice and gently. And as your heel touches the floor, you can just give yourself a little shake in the legs and just relax the legs. Beautiful. Bring both of your legs together again, toes pointed to the ceiling. Inhale, bring your left knee in towards the chest, interlacing the fingers around the shin. And exhale, squeeze in towards the torso. Closing your eyes, coming back to that mindful breath. Take one more. Using both of your hands or just the left, you can begin to take those nice big hip circles in any direction that works for you. But just really trying to get this external rotation in the hip, getting it out nice and wide to the left side. Synchronize the movement with your breath. Feel that little massage you get with the lower back against the floor. You might feel a little bit of tension in the hips, but this is where we're utilizing the breath to really find that release. Wonderful. Bring your knee back in towards the chest and take a squeeze. From here, grabbing the strap and placing it around the ball of the foot again. Otherwise, you can just bring your hands to the back of your thigh and begin to lengthen out. And maybe bringing the hands up as far as the calf. Inhale, lengthen that leg. Keep both of your feet flexed. And as you exhale, see if you can bring the leg in a little bit closer. Just finding that natural resistance in your flexibility. Once you feel you're at that edge, just coming back to the breath every time. Bring your awareness inward. One more big mindful breath. You can begin to transfer the straps into the left hand or grabbing the outside of the foot. You can bring your right arm down just to counterbalance and begin to take that leg all the way to the left. Try not to kick anything that's around you. And again, once you're feeling that resistance in the hip, this is where you're going to stop and connect to the breath. Begin to take the leg back in towards the center, removing the strap or removing the bind with the hand, and lowering the leg with your breath. Try to make it as slow as you can to challenge yourself a little bit here. And as soon as your leg is back on the floor, you can release the legs and give yourself a shake. Wonderful. Bringing both of the knees in towards you. Bring your feet in towards you. Making sure that they're underneath the knees now. And we're just going to do some synchronized movements with the breath. So as we inhale, we're coming up into bridge pose, lifting the hips. And exhaling to lower down. Letting the breath guide the movement as the inhale begins, the movement follows. Lifting the hips nice and high. And exhale to lower back down. Keep the legs and the knees squeezed together. Inhale, lifting. And exhale, lower back down. Inhale, lifting up. And this time we're going to hold. So you can take your exhale and take 3 breaths. You might find that your legs will naturally start to come outwards, so really try to squeezing the thighs, squeezing the glutes, and lifting nice and high. As you inhale, come up onto the balls of the feet. And exhale, roll the spine back down nice and slowly. Bringing the knees in towards the chest now and taking a squeeze. And we're just going to begin to rock backwards and forwards. And keep your hands on your knees so that you get the momentum to come up into a seated posture. So sitting cross-legged and sitting nice and tall. We're going to come into our seated folds. So you can grab your blocks here if you need them. You can use these to place them underneath the forehead or maybe even on the hands, depending where your hip flexibility is at. We're going to take an inhale, lifting up. You can bring the gaze in between the hands. And exhale, hinge at the hips and come as far down as you can. If you can't quite get too far, you can just bring your hands to the floor or onto the blocks. Otherwise, just keep exhaling, coming as far down as you can, and maybe dropping the forehead to the mat. You can take another inhale to lengthen the spine, creating more space. And using the exhale to extend yourself forward. Taking 3 breaths here.
Walk the hands back in towards the body.
Coming back to a tall seated posture. And just where you're sat, change the cross of your legs so that the opposite foot comes in towards you. So you might notice a difference in the flexibility on each side, so just work with wherever your body is at here. So again, preparing with the blocks if you need them here. Inhale, lift the arms, make yourself nice and tall. And exhale, hinge from the hips, reach your chest forward, coming as far down as you can. You can come halfway down and take another breath. And extend yourself with the exhale.
Connect to the breath, closing down the eyes. And begin to walk the hands back in.
Beautiful. With your next inhale, reach the arms up above you again. And as we exhale, we're going to twist over to the right. Bring your right hand behind you and your left hand to your knee. Inhale, push through the arms so that you sit nice and tall. And exhale, twisting over to the right, bringing the gaze over the right shoulder. Closing down your eyes if you would like to. And just holding here, or you can do this little motion of inhaling, lengthening, and exhaling to deepen the twist. The more length you can create in the spine, the deeper you'll be able to make your twist. One more breath. Begin your inhale, allowing the movement to follow as you lift the arms and begin to twist to the opposite side. Exhale, bring your right hand to the left knee and bring your left hand behind your back. So our left hand is here for support, but we're not leaning into it so much so that if we were to remove it, we fall backwards. It's just there to help us get deeper into the posture. So again, inhale, sit nice and tall, lengthening through to the crown of the head, and exhale over to the left. Looking over the left shoulder and closing down the eyes. Bring your awareness back inwards to you. One more breath. And you can just release and bring yourself back to facing the front of your mat. Wonderful. So bringing your hands onto the floor in front of you now, we're going to roll into a tabletop position, making sure that our wrists are underneath the shoulders and our knees are underneath our hips so that we have this nice bone stacking structure. On your inhale, we're going to drop the belly in the chest and lift the gaze all the way up to the ceiling. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, pushing through the arms and release the neck. Let your head hang heavy. Inhale, dropping down into cow. Lifting the gaze last, squeezing the shoulder blades. Exhale, moving nice and slowly as we transition to cat. Inhale to drop down. Exhale, push the ground away, doming the spine.
One more time. Inhale.
And exhale. Wonderful. Bring yourself back to a neutral spine. We're going to bring the left hand into the center of the mat. And on your inhale, open up your shoulders to the right. You can follow your hand with your gaze. And exhale, threading the needle, bring your right arm underneath the left, coming down onto the left shoulder. Coming down onto the right shoulder and the right side of the face. You can keep your left hand where it is, or you have the option to bring it above the head or behind the back and tucking into that right hip crease. Close down your eyes, connect to the breath. And just being mindful of the sensations within the body. If you feel like you're in pain or it's far too uncomfortable for you, then come out of the pose nice and slowly and readjust until you can settle in. When we're doing some deep stretching, you might feel some discomfort. So it's important to distinguish what is pain and what just needs to be released. One more breath. Bring your left hand back to the side of your face. Inhale, open up to the side of the room. And exhale back down. Wonderful. Bring your right hand into the center this time. Inhale, open up to the left. Follow your hand with your gaze. Exhale, thread the needle coming down onto the left shoulder this time. Get yourself nice and settled into the pose. And when you're ready, you can take that arm variation, whichever one is comfortable for you. And just allow yourself to settle into the pose like a short meditation. Even in these poses where we're in a little bit of a twist or a different pose, just really try to consciously send that breath into the belly and into the chest, getting a deeper breath as we can. One more. Bring your right hand back to the side of your face. Inhale, open up to the left. And exhale back to tabletop. So we're going to come down into puppy pose now. So you can move yourself a little bit further down your mat as we bring our hands forward. Keeping your knees and your hips where they are, just walk your hands forward and begin to lower your chest and your forehead down to the mat. Starting here and feeling that nice opening in the upper back and the shoulders. Take a breath. And if it feels comfortable, you can walk your hands a little bit further forward, intensifying the stretch and getting a little bit deeper. If you're quite comfortable with this pose, you can bring yourself down onto the chest and the chin. Or alternatively, you can also take the blocks underneath the hands. And this will give you a little bit more height to get deeper into the pose without coming all the way down onto the chest. Breathing nice and deep into the shoulders, into the chest. Staying for 2 more breaths. Any variation that you've chosen. And as you come back out of the pose, coming out with just as much care as you did coming into it. So just sliding yourself back nice and gently and coming back into our tabletop position. From here, bring your hands down in front of you about a shoulder distance apart. Tuck your toes and take an inhale. And as you exhale, we're going to send the hips up high and back, coming into downward dog. You can keep your knees generously bent to start with until you get this nice length in the back. Dropping your head in between the upper arms, and then you can begin to lengthen the legs out. Just gently pushing the heels to the floor one at a time, getting that nice lengthening and release in the hamstrings. Remembering to synchronize this with our breath as you push down using the exhale. Beautiful. Just pedaling the feet out, or doing what I like to call the cat paw motion when you see a cat massaging something with its front paws. Just nice and gently pushing the feet towards the floor. Take one more big breath. Look up towards your hands and you can begin to walk towards them nice and gently. Just until you find yourself in a forward fold. We're just going to do a nice, easy one to begin with. So give yourself a nice, generous bend in the knees. Grab the opposing upper arms and release the back and the head. Gently lengthening out the backs of the legs, pushing your weight into the balls of the feet. And what I actually like to do here is just bounce the upper body, just nice and gently. Just feeling that resistance and that bounce in the fascia. It's this elasticity that connects our muscles and surrounds them. And gently swaying over to the left, maybe giving yourself a little twist in the upper body, keeping that neck relaxed. And over to the other side. And you can just bring yourself back to the middle. And you can take a bind here if you'd like, or if you prefer just to keep this nice ragdoll motion going. You can do whatever you like for the next 3 breaths. Especially on days where the hips and the hamstrings feel tight, I do prefer just to take this ragdoll variation and just allow gravity to lengthen the spine and open up the hamstrings for me. All you have to do here is keep your breath nice and strong and consistent. Wonderful. Bring your hands back down to the floor and you can bend the knees. And I'm just going to walk the feet backwards again, coming back to a downward dog. Use your exhale to settle in.
One more big breath.
Looking up towards your hands, you're going to dome your spine and roll up, almost as if you're coming to a plank position. And step your right foot forward, dropping the left knee down. Bring yourself up into a lunge, making sure that your knee is over the ankle. And just allow yourself to sit into this lunge, connecting to the breath and finding that comfortable position. So if this is too much, you can always shorten the distance between both of the legs if it's too intense. Otherwise, bringing the leg a little bit further forward and just finding where your body is at. Keep a little bit of engagement in the core just so that we're not dumping the back into the lower hips. Dumping the lower back into the hips, in fact. And if your knee feels a little bit tender against the floor, you can always curl the corner of your mat over to give yourself an extra bit of cushion. You can always try coming up onto the toes as well, as this can make a little bit of difference, just depending how it feels within your body. Wonderful. We're going to bring our left arm to the top of the right thigh now. And as we take our inhale, we're going to take our right arm up and back, scooping it up. And as you exhale, twisting as far as you can to the back, lowering back down, and inhaling to come back up, making this a nice, consistent circular movement. If this feels too much, you can always bring your left hand down to the floor instead and do a more gentle variation. That'll be a little bit less intense of a twist. So again, yoga is all about learning what works for your body and what is helping nourish you. So we're going to do 5 more big circles. Inhaling to scoop the arm. And exhaling as it comes back and down. And follow your hand with your gaze again. One more time. Wonderful. And bring your hands back down to the floor. And just nice and gently glide your right leg back. Coming into a tabletop position and just give yourself a nice big hip circle. And in the opposite direction. Use your next breath to come back to downward dog again.
Take one big breath.
Looking up towards your hands, begin to dome your spine, moving into a high plank position and taking that left foot forward, dropping the right knee down. Coming up to the low lunge, you can just bring your hands to the hips and just using a few breaths to work into a nice comfortable stance. So we're squaring our hips so that we're not opening up to the side. You want to bring that right hip a little bit forward so that if you would imagine that you had headlights on the front of your hips, they're both facing forward and they're not off to the side. Knee over the ankle, no matter how deep into the lunge you are. Just allow yourself to settle in. One more breath. Curling my mat over just for this side. And now we're going to bring the right arm to the top of the left thigh again. and beginning that same movement. So you can start on the floor if you prefer, if this is better for you. But whichever variation you're going for, use the inhale to scoop up the arm. Exhale to bring it back. Inhale, taking it up and around. Exhale as it comes back and down. Make this nice fluid motion with your breath and your movement. Really try to slow it down. Two more times. Wonderful. Bring your hands down to the floor. You can begin, take your left leg back, tabletop. And from here, you can keep your knees together or take them out to the corners of the mat. And as you exhale, we're going to come back into child pose. Just extending the arms in front of you, bringing your forehead down to the mat and sitting your hips back. Otherwise, you can go for a nice restorative variation with the knees together. Bringing the forehead down and just letting your shoulders and arms rest down by your side. Just giving yourself a few moments to feel nice and grounded. And just letting the body relax and melt into the floor. And take 2 more mindful grounding breaths. And you can begin to come back up to a tall posture, just nice and slowly uncurling the spine. Taking one nourishing breath as we get back into the seated posture. Wonderful. So for our next stretch, you might want to use the strap for this, as it's going to be a bit of an intense shoulder opening depending where you are at. So what we're going to do is take the strap into your right hand and just bend your elbow and bring it behind you. Grab the bottom of the strap with your left hand so that we're connected at the back here. As you inhale, open up your chest and your shoulders, and as you exhale, begin to walk the hands in towards each other. Keep going until you find that resistance. And if this is as far as you can get your hands, then this is where you're going to stay and connect to the breath. Each time you inhale, push the chest forward, bring your shoulders back. And exhale. You can keep walking the hands in as much as you can, feeling that opening in the shoulders. And if you can come straight into a bind, interlacing the fingers and getting that nice lock in with the fingers. So wherever you're at, whether that's still with the strap or with the bind, we're going to hold this for 3 breaths. You don't have to sit like this if you don't want to, if this is too uncomfortable. Just find a position that works for you. One more time. You can begin to release the hands nice and slowly. Bring your shoulders back down and give yourself a little shake, just rolling the shoulders and taking it in the opposite direction. Wonderful. So doing the same for the other side. You can start with the strap in the left arm and taking it behind you. I'm going to come back into this posture. This is more comfortable for me. We're going to take the straps, inhale, lengthen the spine, push the chest forward. And as you exhale, begin to walk the hands in towards each other. So again, we're just staying where it feels comfortable. Don't push yourself more than feels natural for your flexibility. If you know you can come straight into this kind of bind, you can just bring your right arm behind you. Inhale to bring the left up. And exhale to take the bind. Closing down your eyes if you'd like to, as usual. And connecting to this pose for 3 breaths. Last one. Releasing the hands or the straps nice and slowly. And again, you can just give yourself that little shoulder roll. So just removing anything that might be obstructing your mat right now. We're just going to do one quick round of cat-cow. And you can just bring your hands to your knees or to the tops of the thighs. And as you inhale, push the chest forward and just gently bring your gaze backwards. As you exhale, roll your pelvis back, doming the spine and release the neck. Inhale, bring yourself forward. And exhale to come back. One more time. Exhale. Wonderful. So just begin to transition yourself down onto your back again. Just in any way that's comfortable for you. You can just completely flop backwards if you prefer, if this is where you're at. But in our supine posture, we're going to bring our arms out nice and wide and take your hips over to the right side of the mat. Unclip this just for a moment. We're going to let the knees fall to the left and bring the gaze over the right shoulder. Just staying in this nice, comfortable variation. You can take your right leg further over the left if you want to get a deeper stretch in the lower back. Otherwise, just staying in this nice, comfortable twist. Closing down the eyes and connecting for 3 deep breaths. Begin to draw your knees back in towards the center of the mat. Taking your hips over to the left side this time and letting your knees fall over to the right. Bringing your gaze over the left shoulder this time. Closing down your eyes and connecting to the breath. Just really begin to give yourself permission to relax and come to a state of stillness. One more big breath, remembering to try to draw it into the belly and all the way up to the chest. Begin to draw your legs back in towards the center of the mat. You can bring your hips back to the center too. From here, we're going to bring the soles of our feet together and bring yourself into a reclined butterfly pose. If you want to intensify the stretch, just bring your feet closer towards your pelvis. Otherwise, if this is too much, you can bring them further away, and this will detensify the stretch. So again, it's just about finding where is the most comfortable for you. So once you're settled, you can leave your hands on your torso, or you can even bring them above your head and do a little diamond shape. This is my favorite variation for this pose. And you can just let your legs lie as they are, or you can bring a little bouncing motion into the hips and the knees. Connect to your breath for this final pose. Exhaling to release all that no longer serves you. Just letting yourself be in the moment, the persistence of the now. So you can bring your knees back in together and give yourself one last little squeeze of the knees in towards the chest. Giving yourself a little hug, loving yourself and loving your body, loving who you are. And begin to lengthen your legs to the corners of the mat, coming into a final Shavasana, just for a few moments as we allow our bodies to really take in the flow and allowing our mind to come to a state of equilibrium. Allowing the muscles to soften. Let your legs fall naturally outwards. You can rest your hands on your torso or the hands down by the side. And soften the forehead, and soften the jaw, and softening your eyelids. Allowing your breath to take you into a deeper state of relaxation. Bringing your breath back to your point of focus. Every time the mind begins to wander, allowing yourself to reconnect every single time you find your thoughts drifting. can begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers, bringing movement back into the body. Taking the arms up above the head and take a nice full body stretch all the way from your fingers down to your toes. And begin to make your way to a seated posture. Sitting nice and tall one last time. Exhale through the mouth to release all the excess stagnant air. Big inhale, filling the lungs. Audible exhale. One more time. Bring your hands to the heart center, sealing in our practice. The light within me acknowledges the light within you. Namaste. I really hope you enjoyed this flow, and hopefully your back and your shoulders are feeling maybe a little bit more looser and lighter now. And I really recommend, if there's any poses in particular that you liked, or even the ones that you didn't like, try to do them every day, even just for 3 to 5 breaths or 30 seconds, and it will make such a difference for your body. Thank you so much for joining me again.